The massive warship hung in Earth's orbit like a metal vulture, its dark hull reflecting the pale blue light of humanity's home world. Princess Zarathul stood on the command deck, her violet skin gleaming under the harsh lights of the bridge. Her three eyes blazed with fury as she watched the planet below, each breath making her chest rise and fall with barely contained rage. "My lady?" Her chief commander spoke, his voice trembling slightly. "The bombardment arrays are fully charged. We await your command to begin the cleansing." Zarathul's clawed fingers gripped the railing before her. For 3 cycles, she had planned this moment. 3 long cycles since the humans had dared to attack her father's mining colony on Xerion Prime. The images still burned in her mind. The twisted metal, the bodies of her people scattered like broken dolls, the silence where once there had been life and laughter. "They showed no mercy to our civilians," she whispered, her voice carrying the weight of royal authority and personal pain. Children, elders, workers who had never held a weapon, all dead because these primitive creatures wanted our resources. The bridge fell silent except for the low hum of the ship's systems. Every member of her crew knew the stories, how the humans had arrived at Xerion Prime under the pretense of trade talks, how they had smiled and shook hands with her father's representatives, how they had then unleashed their hidden weapons in a coordinated strike that left thousands dead. Below them, Earth spun peacefully, unaware that death watched from above. Cities sparkled like scattered gems across the continents. Clouds swirled in patterns that might have been beautiful under different circumstances. But Zarathul saw only targets. "Princess," her science officer interrupted carefully, "our scans show approximately 8 billion humans on the surface. The cleansing will be complete. 8 billion lives." The number should have meant something, should have given her pause. But when she closed her eyes, all she could see was her younger brother's face in the ruins of Xerion Prime. Little Kethvon, who had been visiting the colony to study their terraforming techniques, who had believed that knowledge and peace could bridge any gap between species. "They made their choice when they chose violence," Zarathul said, her voice growing stronger. "Today we ensure they can never threaten another peaceful world." She turned to address her crew, her royal robes flowing behind her like liquid starlight. These warriors had followed her across half the galaxy, believing in her cause, trusting in her leadership. They deserved to understand why this moment was necessary. "My people," she began, her voice carrying to every corner of the bridge, "we did not seek this war. We offered friendship, trade, knowledge. We shared our technology, our culture, our very selves with these humans. And how did they repay our trust?" Murmurs of anger rippled through the crew. Everyone knew the answer. With betrayal. With murder. With the kind of senseless violence that proves they are nothing more than savage beasts wearing the mask of civilization. Her first officer stepped forward, a scar running down the left side of his face from a previous battle with human forces. "The humans have sent several transmission attempts since we arrived, my lady. They claim they want to negotiate." Zarathul's laugh was bitter and cold. "Negotiate? Did they negotiate when they butchered our people? Did they show mercy when our children begged for their lives?" She moved to the main view screen, placing her hand against the cool surface. Earth filled the display, blue and green and achingly alive. Somewhere down there, human families were having dinner. Human children were playing in parks. Human lovers were making promises under alien stars. None of it mattered. None of it could balance the scales of justice. "Your Highness," the communications officer called out. "Incoming priority transmission from the human government. They're requesting an audience with you directly." "Let them talk," Zarathul said dismissively. "Let them plead and bargain and offer whatever desperate bribes they think might save them. It will change nothing." But even as she spoke, something nagged at the back of her mind, a small voice that sounded disturbingly like her brother's, asking questions she didn't want to answer. What if the attack on Xerion Prime hadn't been sanctioned by the human government? What if there were humans who genuinely sought peace? What if somewhere in those 8 billion lives were beings as innocent as the ones who had died in her father's colony? She pushed the thoughts away angrily. Doubt was a luxury she couldn't afford. Her people looked to her for justice, for closure, for the strength to ensure this could never happen again. The humans had proven what they were capable of when they thought no one could stop them. Today they would learn that actions had consequences. "Charge all weapons," she commanded, her voice ringing with finality. "Target their major population centers first. We'll work our way down to the smaller settlements. As her crew moved to carry out her orders, Zarathul allowed herself one last look at the planet below. After today it would be silent and empty, a monument to the price of crossing her people. The humans had taught her that mercy was weakness, that peace was just an invitation for betrayal. It was a lesson she would never forget, and one they would never have the chance to regret. The massive warship hung in Earth's orbit like a metal vulture, its dark hull reflecting the pale blue light of humanity's homeworld. Princess Zarathul stood on the command deck, her violet skin gleaming under the harsh lights of the bridge. Her 3 eyes blazed with fury as she watched the planet below, each breath making her chest rise and fall with barely contained rage. "My lady," her chief commander spoke, his voice trembling slightly. "The bombardment arrays are fully charged. We await your command to begin the cleansing." Zarathul's clawed fingers gripped the railing before her. For 3 cycles she had planned this moment. 3 long cycles since the humans had dared to attack her father's mining colony on Xerion Prime. The images still burned in her mind. The twisted metal, the bodies of her people scattered like broken dolls, the silence where once there had been life and laughter. "They showed no mercy to our civilians," she whispered, her voice carrying the weight of royal authority and personal pain. "Children, elders, workers who had never held a weapon. All dead because these primitive creatures wanted our resources." The bridge fell silent except for the low hum of the ship's systems. Every member of her crew knew the stories. How the humans had arrived at Xerion Prime under the pretense of trade talks. How they had smiled and shook hands with her father's representatives. How they had then unleashed their hidden weapons in a coordinated strike that left thousands dead. Below them, Earth spun peacefully, unaware that death watched from above. Cities sparkled like scattered gems across the continents. Clouds swirled in patterns that might have been beautiful under different circumstances, but Zarathul saw only targets. "Princess," her science officer interrupted carefully. "Our scans show approximately 8 billion humans on the surface. The cleansing will be complete. 8 billion lives." The number should have meant something, should have given her pause. But when she closed her eyes, all she could see was her younger brother's face in the ruins of Xerion Prime. Little Kethavan, who had been visiting the colony to study their terraforming techniques. Who had believed that knowledge and peace could bridge any gap between species. "They made their choice when they chose violence," Zarathul said, her voice growing stronger. "Today we ensure they can never threaten another peaceful world." She turned to address her crew, her royal robes flowing behind her like liquid starlight. These warriors had followed her across half the galaxy, believing in her cause, trusting in her leadership. They deserved to understand why this moment was necessary. "My people," she began, her voice carrying to every corner of the bridge, "we did not seek this war. We offered friendship, trade, knowledge. We shared our technology, our culture, our very selves with these humans. And how did they repay our trust?" Murmurs of anger rippled through the crew. Everyone knew the answer: with betrayal, with murder, with the kind of senseless violence that proves they are nothing more than savage beasts wearing the mask of civilization. Her first officer stepped forward, a scar running down the left side of his face from a previous battle with human forces. "The humans have sent several transmission attempts since we arrived, my lady. They claim they want to negotiate." Zarathul's laugh was bitter and cold. "Negotiate? Did they negotiate when they butchered our people? Did they show mercy when our children begged for their lives?" She moved to the main view screen, placing her hand against the cool surface. Earth filled the display, blue and green and achingly alive. Somewhere down there, human families were having dinner. Human children were playing in parks. Human lovers were making promises under alien stars. None of it mattered. None of it could balance the scales of justice. "Your Highness," the communications officer called out. "Incoming priority transmission from the human government. They're requesting an audience with you directly." "Let them talk," Zarathul said dismissively. "Let them plead and bargain and offer whatever desperate bribes they think might save them. It will change nothing." But even as she spoke, something nagged at the back of her mind. A small voice that sounded disturbingly like her brother's, asking questions she didn't want to answer. What if the attack on Xerion Prime hadn't been sanctioned by the human government? What if there were humans who genuinely sought peace? What if somewhere in those 8 billion lives were beings as innocent as the ones who had died in her father's colony? She pushed the thoughts away angrily. Doubt was a luxury she couldn't afford. Her people looked to her for justice, for closure, for the strength to ensure this could never happen again. The humans had proven what they were capable of when they thought no one could stop them. Today they would learn that actions had consequences. "Charge all weapons," she commanded, her voice ringing with finality. "Target their major population centers first. We'll work our way down to the smaller settlements." As her crew moved to carry out her orders, Zarathul allowed herself one last look at the planet below. After today it would be silent and empty, a monument to the price of crossing her people. The humans had taught her that mercy was weakness, that peace was just an invitation for betrayal. It was a lesson she would never forget, and one they would never have the chance to regret. The first energy blast lit up the darkness of space like a miniature star being born. Marcus watched from his observation deck as the beam tore through Earth's atmosphere, striking somewhere in the Pacific Ocean. Steam and vapor erupted upward in a massive column that could be seen from orbit. The ocean water instantly vaporized by alien technology beyond human understanding. "Warning shot," his communication officer reported grimly. "They're hailing us again." Princess Zarathul appeared on screen once more, her violet features cold and merciless. "That was a demonstration, human. Your world's governments have 30 minutes to broadcast their complete surrender on all frequencies, or the next shot targets your largest city." The transmission ended before Marcus could respond. Around him, emergency lights bathed the station in red, and the constant chatter of radio communications created a background of barely controlled panic. Every defense force on Earth was scrambling to respond. But their most powerful weapons were like throwing pebbles at a mountain. "Sir," his tactical officer called out, "we're detecting massive electromagnetic interference from the alien ship. They're jamming most of our communications with the surface. Can we still reach the military commands? Some of them on backup channels. But civilian communications are almost completely cut off." Marcus nodded grimly. The aliens were being smart about it, cutting Earth's ability to coordinate while giving the governments just enough communication to surrender. But he suspected that even if every leader on Earth got on their knees and begged, it wouldn't matter. He had seen the hatred in Princess Zarathul's eyes, the kind of pain that demanded blood payment. A new alarm began blaring, and Marcus spun toward the sensor station. "What is it?" "Sir, I'm reading a much smaller vessel separating from the main alien ship. It appears to be heading toward Earth's surface." On the main display, Marcus could see a sleek craft no bigger than a human shuttle breaking away from the massive warship. Unlike its mothership, this vessel moved with obvious urgency, almost desperation. "That's strange," his sensor operator muttered, adjusting his controls. "The smaller ship isn't responding to hails from the larger vessel. In fact, it looks like the warship is trying to intercept it." Marcus leaned forward, studying the display. The smaller craft was definitely trying to escape, diving toward Earth's atmosphere while the larger ship's weapon systems tracked its movement. But the warship held its fire, as if unwilling to destroy the fleeing vessel. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the smaller craft. It's on an emergency frequency. Put it through." The screen flickered and Marcus found himself looking at another alien, but this one was clearly different from Princess Zarathul, where the princess radiated authority and controlled fury. This alien seemed desperate and frightened. She was smaller, her violet skin bearing intricate tattoos or markings, and she held something in her arms. "Please," the alien said in accented but clear English. "I need help. My daughter, she is hurt. The princess, she has gone mad with grief. She will destroy your world and mine both." Marcus stared in shock. "Who are you? What's wrong with your daughter?" "I am Lirishan, advisor to the royal family. The princess's child was injured in the journey here. She needs medical attention that our ship cannot provide, but Zarathul refuses to delay her revenge." The alien shifted her burden, and Marcus could see that she was indeed holding a child. The little being was small and fragile-looking, her skin a paler violet than the adults, and even through the transmission, Marcus could see that she was struggling to breathe. "The princess had a child?" Marcus asked, pieces of a larger puzzle starting to fit together. "Young Prince Kethavan was her brother," Lirishan explained quickly. "When he died on Zirion Prime, Princess Zarathul adopted his daughter as her own. Little Nixara is all that remains of his bloodline, but she was born with weak lungs. The stress of this journey has made her condition worse." Marcus felt his world shift. The alien princess wasn't just seeking revenge for an abstract political crime. Someone had killed her brother, and now the only family she had left was dying while she struggled between love and vengeance. "Can we help? I mean, do you think human medicine could treat her?" Your species has remarkable adaptability in their healing techniques, Lyra Shan said. Our scans of your medical databases suggest you might be able to stabilize her condition, but I must reach your surface quickly. Behind her, alarms were clearly sounding in her small craft. The princess's guards are trying to force me to return. She believes that seeking help from humans is a betrayal of her brother's memory. Marcus made a decision that would either save 2 worlds or get him court-martialed. We'll guide you to a safe landing site. There's a medical research facility in Switzerland that specializes in respiratory conditions. I'll contact them and have them prepare for your arrival. You would help us? Even knowing that my princess plans to destroy your world? The child isn't responsible for what happened between our peoples, Marcus said firmly. And maybe if we can save her, we can find a way to stop this war before it really starts. Lyra Shan's 3 eyes filled with something that might have been tears. You are either very brave or very foolish, human Marcus Chen. Probably both, Marcus admitted. But right now I'm the only chance you have. As Marcus began coordinating with Earth's air traffic control to clear a path for the alien ship, he watched the massive warship above them. Its weapons were still charging, but something had changed. The targeting systems that had been locked on major population centers were now tracking the smaller craft carrying the sick child. Princess Zarathul had a choice to make. She could continue her planned revenge against humanity, or she could save the last piece of her brother that remained in the universe, but she couldn't do both. And in that moment of hesitation, Marcus saw something he hadn't expected to find in this encounter with alien intelligence. He saw the same terrible choice that any human parent would face between justice and love, between the past and the future. The question was whether Princess Zarathul would choose as a grieving sister seeking vengeance, or as a mother trying to save her child. Dr. Elena Vasquez had delivered over 3,000 babies in her 20-year career, but she had never prepared for anything like this. The call from Orbital Command had come just minutes ago, asking her to ready the emergency medical center for a pediatric respiratory case involving an extraterrestrial patient. She stood on the landing pad of the Swiss Medical Research Facility, watching a sleek alien craft descend through the morning sky. Around her, a team of her best doctors and nurses waited with equipment they hoped would be compatible with alien physiology. The weight of the moment wasn't lost on any of them. The decisions made in the next few hours could determine whether humanity lived or died. The craft touched down with barely a whisper, its advanced technology making human aircraft look clumsy by comparison. A section of the hull dissolved rather than opened, and Dr. Vasquez got her first look at a living alien being. Lyra Shan emerged carrying her precious burden, her violet skin gleaming with perspiration and stress. The child in her arms was clearly struggling, her small chest rising and falling in rapid, shallow breaths that reminded Elena of human infants with severe respiratory distress. Dr. Vasquez? Lyra Shan asked, her English heavily accented but clear. I am Lyra Shan. This is Nixara. Please, she is dying. Elena stepped forward, her medical training overriding any fear or wonder at meeting an alien species. Let me see her. The child was small, maybe equivalent to a human 3-year-old with the same violet skin as the adult, but marked with delicate patterns that seemed to shift color with her breathing. Her 3 eyes were closed, and a bluish tinge around what might have been lips suggested oxygen deprivation. How long has she been having trouble breathing? Elena asked, leading them quickly toward the medical center. Since we entered your solar system, Lyra Shan replied. The stress, the different atmospheric pressure in the ship during our journey. Her lungs have always been weak, but this has made everything worse. Elena's team sprang into action as they entered the emergency room. Monitors were connected, readings taken, and within minutes they had a clearer picture of what they were dealing with. The child's lung structure was remarkably similar to human anatomy, but there were key differences in how oxygen was processed. Her oxygen saturation is dangerously low, Elena's chief resident reported. But look at this lung scan. The tissue density is about 30% higher than human normal. She's essentially trying to breathe with lungs designed for a much thicker atmosphere. Elena nodded, pieces falling into place. That's why the thin air of the spaceship affected her so badly. Lyra Shan, what is the atmospheric composition of your home world? Much denser than Earth, the alien replied, never taking her eyes off the child. Nearly twice the oxygen content with higher pressure overall. We can work with that, Elena said, her confidence growing. We need to get her into a hyperbaric chamber immediately. Adjust the gas mixture to approximate her home atmosphere. As her team moved to prepare the chamber, Elena noticed something else. The child's hand was wrapped around a small device that was glowing softly against her palm. "What is that?" she asked. Lyra Shan's expression grew sad. "A communication device. She has been trying to reach her adoptive mother, Princess Zarathul, but the princess believes that accepting human help would dishonor her dead brother's memory." Elena felt a chill run down her spine. The princess who's threatening to destroy Earth? The same. Nixara doesn't understand why her mother won't speak to her. She thinks she has done something wrong. As if summoned by their conversation, the device in the child's hand began to pulse more brightly, and a holographic image appeared above it. Princess Zarathul's face materialized, her violet features twisted with anguish and indecision. "Nixara," the princess whispered, her voice carrying clearly through the device. "My little star, how are you feeling?" The child's eyes fluttered open at the sound of her mother's voice. When she spoke, her words were in her own language, but the love and confusion in her tone needed no translation. Princess Zarathul responded in kind, her voice breaking with emotion. Then she seemed to notice the human medical equipment surrounding her adopted daughter, and her expression hardened. "Lyra Shan," she said, switching to English. "What have you done?" "What you were too proud to do," Lyra Shan replied firmly. "I saved her life. The humans have technology that can help her breathe properly." "Humans?" Zarathul spat. "The same creatures who murdered her father." Elena couldn't stay silent any longer. "Your Highness, I'm Dr. Elena Vasquez. I've been treating your daughter's respiratory distress. She's going to be fine, but she needs to remain in our care for at least a few more hours." Zarathul's 3 eyes focused on Elena with laser intensity. "You dare speak to me, human? After what your kind did to my family? I'm speaking to you as one parent to another," Elena replied calmly. "Look at your daughter. Really look at her. She's frightened and confused, and she needs her mother to tell her that everything is going to be all right." For a moment, the princess's composure cracked. Elena could see the war raging inside her, the desire for vengeance against her love for the child. "She is all I have left of him," Zarathul whispered. "My brother was everything good about our people. Kind, curious, always believing that understanding could bridge any gap between species. And your humans killed him for that belief." Elena's heart ached for the alien woman. "I can't speak for whoever attacked your people, Your Highness. But I can tell you that the humans caring for your daughter right now would die before they let any harm come to her." The child began to speak again, her voice stronger now as the hyperbaric chamber improved her breathing. She reached toward the hologram of her mother, clearly wanting comfort and reassurance. Princess Zarathul closed her eyes for a long moment. When she opened them again, something fundamental had changed. "If I come to your facility," she said slowly, "if I trust you with the most precious thing in my universe, will you give me your word that no harm will come to her?" "You have my word," Elena said without hesitation. "And the word of every human who works in this facility." The princess looked at her daughter one more time, seeing how the child's color was already improving, how her breathing was becoming easier and more natural. "Very well," she said finally. "I am coming down. But know this, human doctor. If this is some kind of trap, if any harm comes to Nixara, I will turn your entire world into a monument to my rage." The transmission ended, leaving Elena staring at the empty air where the hologram had been. Around her, the medical team continued their work, stabilizing the alien child and preparing for a meeting that could determine the fate of 2 species. In 30 minutes, the most powerful alien warrior in the galaxy would be standing in their medical center, choosing between love and vengeance, between the past and the future. The second alien craft that landed at the medical facility was nothing like the first. Where Lyra Shan's escape pod had been sleek and graceful, Princess Zarathul's personal transport was a masterpiece of intimidation. Dark metal plates shifted and reconfigured as it touched down, and weapon systems that could level a city block gleamed menacingly along its hull. Dr. Vasquez watched from the medical center's windows as a section of the craft's armor simply evaporated. Revealing an opening, Princess Zarathul emerged wearing what could only be described as battle armor, her royal robes replaced by fitted plates that seemed to absorb light itself. Even without weapons visible, she radiated deadly purpose. But as she approached the medical center, Elena noticed something that made her breath catch. The princess's hands were shaking. "Dr. Vasquez," Elena's head of security approached nervously. "Should we activate the facility's defensive systems?" Elena shook her head. "That woman could probably level this entire complex if she wanted to. Our only defense is proving that we're worthy of her trust." Princess Zarathul entered the medical center like a storm front, her 3 eyes scanning every corner for threats. The human staff tried to look busy and non-threatening, but the tension in the air was thick enough to cut with a knife. "Where is she?" the princess demanded. "This way, Your Highness," Elena said, leading her toward the specialized treatment room where Nixara was recovering. "I should warn you, she's connected to several monitoring devices. They're helping us track her respiratory function." They entered the room where the little alien girl was resting in the hyperbaric chamber. Her color had improved dramatically, and her breathing was steady and strong. When she saw her adoptive mother, her face lit up with joy. "Mama Zara," she called out in her own language, pressing her small hands against the transparent wall of the chamber. Princess Zarathul's composure shattered completely. She rushed to the chamber, placing her own hands against the surface where her daughters rested. Tears streamed down her violet cheeks as she spoke rapidly in their native tongue, words of love and relief and desperate apology. Elena watched the reunion with mixed emotions. The tenderness between the alien mother and child was unmistakable, but she could also see the weapon systems built into the princess's armor, could feel the barely contained power that could end human civilization with a thought. "She's asking why you helped her," Lirishan translated quietly, appearing beside Elena. "She doesn't understand why humans would show kindness to the daughter of someone who came to destroy them." Elena moved closer to the chamber. "Your Highness, may I explain?" Zarathul looked up, her eyes still bright with tears. "Speak." "When I first saw Nixara, I didn't see the child of an alien princess or the daughter of an enemy," Elena said simply. "I saw a little girl who was struggling to breathe. That's all that mattered. But you know what I came here to do," Zarathul said, her voice raw with emotion. "You know I intend to destroy your world for what your people did to my brother." "I know you're in pain," Elena replied gently. "I know someone you loved was taken from you, and I know you believe humanity is responsible. But look at your daughter, really look at her. Is the revenge you're planning worth risking her future?" Zarathul's gaze moved back to Nixara, who was now chattering happily in the chamber, telling her mother about the kind humans who had helped her breathe better. The child's innocence and joy stood in stark contrast to the weapons of mass destruction hanging in orbit above their heads. "My brother believed in peace," the princess whispered. "He thought that understanding and cooperation could solve any problem. When the humans attacked Zirion Prime, they didn't just kill him, they killed his dream." Elena felt her heart breaking for this alien woman. What if his dream doesn't have to die? What if there's another way to honor his memory? "How can there be?" Zarathul demanded. "Your people proved what they truly are when they chose violence over diplomacy." "Some of our people chose violence," Elena corrected. "But look around you. My entire staff has spent the last several hours working to save the life of an alien child. We didn't ask for payment, we didn't demand concessions. We helped because it was the right thing to do." Dr. Martinez, Elena's senior pediatrician, approached carefully. "Your Highness, if I may, we've been analyzing your daughter's condition. The treatment she needs isn't complicated, but it will require ongoing care. We'd like to propose a long-term treatment plan." Zarathul stiffened. "You want to keep her as a hostage?" "We want to keep her healthy," Martinez replied calmly. "The atmospheric differences between our worlds mean she'll always have respiratory challenges. But with the right medical support, she can live a completely normal life." Elena saw the opportunity and seized it. "Your Highness, your brother believed in cooperation between species. What if we could prove he was right? What if, instead of destroying Earth, you worked with us to build the kind of future he dreamed of?" "Impossible," Zarathul said, but her voice lacked conviction. "Too much blood has been spilled. Blood that was spilled by military forces acting without the knowledge or consent of most humans," Elena pressed. "The people of Earth had no idea your colony existed, let alone that it had been attacked." Lirishan stepped forward. "Princess, I have been monitoring their communications since we arrived. The human governments are as shocked by the revelation of the attack as we were. There are already calls for investigations, for the arrest of those responsible." Zarathul closed her eyes, clearly struggling with concepts that challenged everything she had believed about humans. Even if that were true, how could I trust a species capable of such deception? The same way we're trusting you, Elena said quietly. You came here with enough firepower to destroy our entire planet. You could have started shooting the moment you arrived. But you didn't. You gave us a chance to explain, a chance to help your daughter. That tells me everything I need to know about who you really are. In the chamber, Nixara had grown tired and was curling up for a nap. She looked so small and peaceful, protected by human technology and surrounded by people who had worked tirelessly to save her life. If I were to consider this path you suggest, Zarathul said slowly, what assurance would I have that the humans responsible for my brother's death would face justice? Elena looked at Lyrishan, who nodded understanding. I'll contact our orbital station immediately. We'll provide you with all the evidence we have about the attack on your colony, and we'll work together to identify and prosecute everyone involved. For a long moment, the only sound in the room was the quiet hum of the medical equipment keeping Nixara stable. Princess Zarathul stared at her sleeping daughter, and Elena could see the exact moment when love triumphed over vengeance. Very well, the princess said finally. We will try this path of cooperation. But know this, if humanity betrays this trust, if any harm comes to those under my protection, the consequences will be swift and final. Elena nodded. And if we prove worthy of that trust? If we can build the future your brother dreamed of? Princess Zarathul placed her hand on the chamber once more, watching her daughter sleep peacefully under human care. Then perhaps, she said softly, his death will not have been in vain. 3 months after the events at the Swiss Medical Research Facility, the world had changed in ways no one could have imagined. The massive Valdoran warship still hung in Earth's orbit, but instead of instruments of destruction, it had become a symbol of unprecedented cooperation between species. Marcus Chen stood in what had once been his orbital monitoring station, but was now the headquarters of the Human Valdoran Cooperative Council. Through the reinforced windows, he could see construction crews working alongside alien engineers to build the first joint research facility in space. It was a sight that still took his breath away. The investigation is complete, Admiral Harrison said, his voice heavy with shame as he addressed the mixed gathering of human and Valdoran officials. We have identified all personnel involved in the unauthorized attack on Zerion Prime. 17 officers, including myself, will face court-martial for crimes against sentient beings. Princess Zarathul listened from her position at the head of the council table, little Nixara sleeping peacefully in her arms. The child's breathing was now completely normal, thanks to a revolutionary treatment combining human medical techniques with Valdoran biotechnology. The penalty for genocide under human law is life imprisonment, Zarathul said quietly. Is this justice sufficient for your people? Marcus watched the princess carefully. Over the past 3 months, he had seen her transform from a vengeful warrior into something unprecedented, a leader trying to forge peace from the ashes of tragedy. But he could still see the pain in her eyes when she spoke of her brother. Your Highness, Admiral Harrison said, stepping forward, I know that no punishment can bring back your brother or the others who died on Zerion Prime. But I want you to know that what we did was not representative of humanity's values. We were wrong, and we will spend the rest of our lives trying to make amends. Dr. Vasquez, who had been invited to the council as an observer, raised her hand. If I may, Princess, I've been working with Valdoran medical teams over the past few weeks, and I think we've discovered something important. Speak, Zarathul said. The respiratory treatment we developed for Nixara has applications far beyond her individual condition. The atmospheric differences between our worlds actually make us ideal medical partners. Human techniques combined with Valdoran biotechnology could revolutionize healthcare for both species. Elena activated a holographic display showing molecular structures and treatment protocols. We could establish joint medical centers throughout both territories. Humans could treat Valdoran respiratory issues, while your people could help us with cellular regeneration and genetic disorders. Lyra Shan, who had been appointed as the Valdoran ambassador to Earth, leaned forward with interest. This could save millions of lives across both civilizations. It's exactly the kind of cooperation my brother dreamed of, Zarathul said softly, her hand stroking her sleeping daughter's hair. He would have loved to see species working together to heal rather than harm. Marcus cleared his throat. There's something else we need to discuss. Our deep space monitoring stations have detected other alien civilizations in nearby systems. Word of our cooperation is spreading, and we're receiving communication requests from species that have been watching both humanity and the Valdoran Empire. Some are friendly, added the head of Xenological Studies, a new department that had been created practically overnight, but others seem concerned about what they perceive as a potential alliance between two previously hostile species. Princess Zarathul's expression grew thoughtful. The galaxy is full of conflicts between different species. Ancient grudges, resource disputes, territorial claims. If humanity and the Valdorans could demonstrate that peace is possible, we could become a model for interstellar cooperation, Marcus finished. But it would mean taking on responsibilities we never imagined. Mediating disputes, protecting smaller civilizations, possibly even defending peace against those who profit from war. In her arms, Nyxara stirred and opened her 3 eyes, looking around at the gathering of humans and Valdorans with the kind of wonder only a child could possess. She had grown up surrounded by both species, learning both languages, playing with human and Valdoran children alike. To her, the idea of hatred between species was simply incomprehensible. Mama Zara, she said in perfect English, when will the new hospital be finished? I want to help Dr. Elena with the other sick children. The princess smiled, the expression transforming her face completely. Soon, little star. Very soon, Dr. Vasquez grinned. She's been insisting on helping with our pediatric rounds. Yesterday she showed a human child how to do Valdoran breathing exercises. It was remarkable to watch. Children adapt so much faster than adults, Admiral Harrison observed. To them, differences are just interesting, not threatening. Perhaps that's the key, Marcus said thoughtfully. Joint education programs, mixed communities, shared experiences. If we can raise a generation that sees cooperation as normal, peace becomes sustainable. Princess Zarathul stood, still holding her daughter. 3 months ago, I came to the system with weapons charged and revenge in my heart. I was ready to destroy an entire world for the crimes of a few. She moved to the window, looking down at Earth's blue surface where human and Valdoran colonies were already taking shape. But a courageous human chose to help a dying child instead of protecting himself. A human doctor chose to heal rather than judge. A human soldier chose to investigate rather than deny. And a human community chose to welcome strangers rather than fear them. Nyxara reached up to touch her mother's face. Are you sad, Mama? No, little star, Zarathul replied. I was thinking about Uncle Keth. He would be so proud of what we're building here. The princess turned back to the council. My brother believed that understanding could bridge any gap between species. Today I propose we test that belief on a galactic scale. She activated her own holographic display, showing star charts and communication logs from dozens of alien civilizations. The Valdoran Empire has the military strength to enforce peace. Humanity has the diplomatic flexibility to negotiate it. Together we could become something the galaxy has never seen, a true peacekeeping alliance. Marcus felt his pulse quicken. You're talking about reshaping interstellar politics on a scale that would affect hundreds of species. I'm talking about honoring my brother's memory by making his dream reality. Zarathul corrected. But I can't do it alone. And the Valdoran Empire can't do it by force. It has to be a true partnership. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. They were discussing nothing less than becoming the galaxy's protectors, mediators, and healers. It was a responsibility that would span generations and challenge both species in ways they couldn't yet imagine. But looking at little Nyxara, healthy and happy and surrounded by beings from 2 different worlds who loved her, Marcus found himself believing it was possible. Where do we start? He asked. 5 years later, the joint human-Valdoran space station New Harmony orbited a neutral star system at the edge of known space. What had begun as a desperate attempt to save one alien child had grown into something that was reshaping the galaxy. Captain Marcus Chen, now wearing the insignia of the Interstellar Peacekeeping Force, stood in the observation deck watching a fleet of ships from 12 different species dock at the massive station. Today marked the signing of the Galactic Cooperation Accord, a treaty that would establish formal diplomatic relations between civilizations that had been isolated from each other for millennia. Nervous? Asked Princess Zarathul, approaching with 8-year-old Nyxara skipping beside her. The child had grown into a beautiful young girl who spoke 6 languages fluently, and seemed to make friends with every alien species they encountered. Terrified, Marcus admitted with a smile. When I was monitoring Earth's orbit 5 years ago, I never imagined I'd be helping establish galactic law. Nixara tugged on his uniform. Uncle Marcus, the Christian ambassador, wants to know if humans really eat plants. I told her about pizza, but she doesn't believe that anyone would put vegetables on bread and call it food. Marcus laughed. The child's innocent questions had become legendary throughout the diplomatic corps. Her natural curiosity and complete lack of prejudice had broken more negotiation deadlocks than formal protocols ever could. Why don't you take her to the agricultural bay and show her how we grow tomatoes? Zarathul suggested. Dr. Vasquez is giving a demonstration of hydroponic farming to the Meridian delegation. As Nixara raced off to find new friends among the alien dignitaries, Marcus and Zarathul made their way to the main conference hall. The sight that greeted them would have been impossible to imagine just a few years earlier. Representatives from dozens of species filled the vast amphitheater. The insectoid Cathera sat next to the energy-based Luminari. The aquatic deep-stream delegation occupied specially designed water tanks, while the silicon-based crystalline wore environmental suits that gleamed like living jewels. At the center of it all, human and Valdoran mediators worked together to facilitate communication between species that had never spoken to each other before. Dr. Elena Vasquez, now the director of Interspecies Medical Exchange, was addressing the assembly. The success of our joint healing centers has exceeded every projection. We've treated over 2 million patients across 47 star systems. And in every case, cooperation between species has produced better results than any single civilization could achieve alone. The Meridian ambassador, a tall being with silver skin and large black eyes, raised a graceful hand. The medical achievements are remarkable, but what assurance do we have that this alliance won't eventually become just another empire seeking to dominate weaker species? It was a question that came up in every negotiation session. The galaxy was full of civilizations that had learned to fear powerful alliances, having been conquered or exploited by them in the past. Princess Zarathul stood to address the concern. 5 years ago, I came to destroy humanity for a crime committed by a few individuals. I had the power to wipe out their entire species, and my people expected me to use it. She gestured to the diverse gathering around them. Instead, humans showed me that justice and vengeance are not the same thing. They prove that healing is stronger than hatred. That cooperation creates more than conquest ever could. The Valdoran princess activated a holographic display, showing the growth of their alliance over the past 5 years. We have mediated 17 territorial disputes without firing a single shot. We have established trade networks that have lifted 43 civilizations out of poverty. We have shared medical knowledge that has eliminated 6 diseases and created treatments for dozens more. Admiral Harrison, who had served his sentence and was now working as a researcher, studying the psychological roots of interspecies conflict, added his perspective. The crimes I committed on Xerion Prime taught me that fear and misunderstanding are the real enemies of peace. When we react to differences with violence instead of curiosity, we all lose. The Christine representative, a being that looked like living crystal but spoke in harmonious tones, posed the next question. What happens when you encounter a species that chooses aggression over cooperation? How do you maintain peace with those who seek war? Marcus had been dreading this question because he knew it would be tested soon. Their intelligence networks had detected a militaristic empire in a neighboring sector that seemed intent on expansion through conquest. We hope it never comes to that, he said honestly. But if forced to choose between allowing aggression to spread and defending innocent civilizations, we will act. The difference is that we'll always seek the minimum force necessary to protect life, not the maximum damage we can inflict. Nixara's voice suddenly echoed through the hall as she burst in, followed by a group of young aliens from various species.
Mama Zara!
Uncle Marcus, you have to see what we discovered. The formal proceedings paused as the children approached the central podium. Nixara carried a small device that was projecting a complex holographic pattern. We were playing in the Cultural Exchange Center, she explained breathlessly, and Crix from the Meridian delegation and Cynthia from the Crystalline Embassy were showing me their art forms. When we combined them with human music and Valdoran poetry, this happened. The hologram expanded, filling the hall with a stunning display of light, sound, and mathematical beauty that seemed to speak to something fundamental in every species present. It was art in a form that no single civilization could have created alone, yet somehow felt familiar and meaningful to everyone who experienced it. The assembly sat in stunned silence as the children's collaborative creation played out above them. When it ended, the Deepstream ambassador was the first to speak, her translated words carrying obvious emotion. In 3,000 years of my species' existence, we have never experienced anything like that. It touched something in my consciousness that I didn't know existed. The Kithra delegate clicked his mandibles in agreement. My hive mind has reached consensus. This demonstrates the potential for forms of beauty and meaning that transcend individual species limitations. Zarathul smiled as she watched the effect the children's creation had on the adult delegates. Perhaps this is the real answer to your questions about our alliance. We're not trying to create an empire or impose our will on others. We're trying to discover what becomes possible when different forms of consciousness work together instead of against each other. Marcus nodded, watching Nixara explain excitedly to the alien children how they could create even more complex collaborative art forms. The child who brought us together has shown us something important. When beings from different worlds share their unique gifts freely, the result is something none of us could achieve alone. The luminary representative, whose energy-based communication created patterns of pure light, expressed what many in the hall were feeling. Perhaps it is time to move beyond our ancient fears. Perhaps cooperation truly is the next stage of galactic evolution. As the formal treaty signing began, Marcus reflected on the incredible journey that had brought them to this moment. It had started with one person choosing compassion over fear, one doctor choosing to heal rather than judge, one princess choosing love over vengeance. Now, that choice was spreading across the galaxy, carried by a generation of children who saw differences as gifts to be shared, rather than threats to be feared. Nixara and her friends would grow up in a universe where cooperation was normal, where the idea of destroying another species would seem as foreign as it should have always been. The galaxy was vast and full of challenges they couldn't yet imagine. But watching the delegates from dozens of worlds sign their names to a treaty of peace and cooperation, Marcus felt something he had never expected to experience as a member of humanity: genuine optimism about the future. In the end, Princess Zarathul had kept her vow. She had indeed wiped out something from the galaxy. Not humanity, but the old ways of thinking that made species see each other as enemies instead of potential partners. And it had all begun with one simple act of courage: choosing to save a child's life, regardless of what species she belonged to. Sometimes, Marcus thought, the most powerful weapons in the universe were kindness, hope, and the willingness to believe that tomorrow could be better than today. The signing ceremony concluded with the children's collaborative art piece playing once more, a symbol of what the galaxy could become when its inhabitants chose to create together, rather than destroy alone. As applause filled the hall from dozens of different species, each expressing appreciation in their own unique way, Marcus knew that Prince Kethavan's dream of understanding and cooperation had finally found its moment to change the stars themselves.